Dun, 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 dun. This video series really needs a theme song. And I'm gonna come up with something, and I'm really looking forward to that. Anyways, welcome, dear human family, to another episode of the video series Navigating the Matrix with Natural Law Principles. Me, as your host, Stephen Whybrow, I'm deeply honored to have you here again with me and to continue this journey, which is already, I'm finding out in my life, very interesting journey that I'm embarking on. I don't know where this is leading to, and I think that's the exciting bit, going into the unknown. So, what have we learned from last time? That in this video series, I am attempting to look beyond of what is normally perceived and look beyond the smokes and mirrors, be oriented on the truth, give it its best shot. I can only give my best shot, and you too, and see what's really going on here. How can we transform the situation we find ourselves in on what is often called a prison planet? How do we get out of Plato's cave, where we were born into bondage according to the Matrix, into a prison that we cannot see, smell, taste, or touch, a prison for the mind? And how do we transcend this prison? Can we get out of here? And is it possible that with the implementation of 5G, a complete control system, is it possible that that control system at its very basis is implemented because we are so powerful? Is it true that if you can see through the illusion, that you discover that you are the solution? Me personally, I'm hugely interested to find that out. Intuitively, it feels right to me that we have everything at our disposal to grow out of this prison. And I invite you to go along with me there. And just to show you that this is that which drives my incentive, is to do the great work. One great work. Truth, freedom, and love. And has the all-seeing eye on it. Because that's not the Illuminati out there. It's the Illuminati in here. And let's discover that. And we can discover it together. Could be quite exciting. I certainly like surprises. So let's delve right into it. This interview, if you haven't seen it to this point, I highly recommend to go onto London Real and watch the interview that was done by Brian Rose from London Real with a great man called David Icke. And it was historic. It was an absolute historic interview. And I think it could be an absolute game changer in the situation we find ourselves in right now. And I have a lot of respect for David Icke. I highly respect the man because I have been studying his work for a long time now. I first got a book from him in 2012, and that is one of the marker points in my journey of self-discovery and truth-seeking. It's a real big marker point in my life, and I have found David's work very helpful. It's often said by people that his work is a little bit too negative and very dark. He goes into very dark subjects. That's true, but what I've learned from this man is how to really use the right hemisphere of the brain and see a bird's eye perspective on what's going on in the world. And that has really helped me, learning the dot connecting style from this great man, this great gentleman. And I think that interview was his best interview he's ever done, and that takes some beating. He's done some amazing interviews down the years. But this was a coming of age for him, also in his age. I think it was a marker point for him after 30 years of research and meticulous work. He's written like over 20 books, and it was a real, yeah, a real big moment for him, I think. It's been watched, I think, by 4 million people in the first 24 hours, and it just spread wildly. Was censored by YouTube immediately after the live stream was over, which was the second biggest live stream in the world on that day. And it was a real game changer, as I'm going to go into later. And what applies really strongly with David Icke's work is this quote by Gandhi. And it's a quote that really gives a lot of hope and a lot of power. It's great wisdom in these lines. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you inevitably win. You only win when you stay anchored in your truth and you speak your truth. And that's what I learned from this man, because he has been ridiculed for such a long time now. He's always associated with his strange views on that lizards rule the world. And yes, this is controversial, obviously, but nonetheless, everyone's entitled to have, to have their freedom of speech. And what I learned from him, from David, and what really got me going, was always to stay true to yourself and speak your truth. And when you speak your truth, you win. We are here to discover the truth, and to really, through truth discovery and the process that is contained in finding out the truth, we find to ourselves, and we find out the beautiful being that we are. It has led to an incredible reaction also in the mainstream, and there's been like loads of articles printed in Sky News and in the BBC, which is very interesting, because they wouldn't be covering this issue if it weren't an issue, and if it weren't for the fact that a lot of people are interested in what David has to say, and they're interested in what's really going on with this situation of a lockdown that is global. So here we can see coronavirus. David Icke's lunatic conspiracy theory interview investigated by Ofcom. Yeah, everyone's always called a lunatic, when you find out things and speak your truth on topics. You're called a lunatic. Okay, that's what happens in this world, and the very fact is that what this lunatic David Icke has been saying over the past 30 years have come true. Most of his predictions have come true, and as he explains, this is not him being a fortune teller, but it has to do with when you put in the hard work and you connect the dots and find out the information that is possible to be found out, then your work can be viewed as prophetic, when actually it is just discovering an agenda, where the agenda leads to, if nothing intervenes, and to expose that agenda before it happens. That's why it is incredible what's going on with this situation right now, and how the mainstream media is attacking a 60-plus-year-old man for speaking the things that he's found out. Shows you the power that we have as a human being, that and the whole mainstream media, that is controlled by very few people and a small group, a small interest group, that they're attacking him for speaking his mind. One single human being has the power, when given the platform, to really put a spanner in the works of the control system. And that should be a sign to us and the value that we also have. And one of the things that David covered in this interview was, and he did a great job in making and putting out information, how 5G could be linked to the coronavirus outbreak. Well, it most certainly is, in the fact that during this lockdown of coronavirus, the rollout of 5G is being accelerated worldwide. And I can only talk from the situation we find here in Austria. There's advertising all across the media for 5G, and people having to work on from their online office with 5G because it's too dangerous to go outside and spread the virus. And they're basically making people comfortable with the idea of working from home and changing people's behavior, and also their perception of themselves. That's also what is happening here, to make people perceive themselves as a virus carrier, and I have to keep social distancing and do what the authorities tell me because I might carry the virus and I might spread the virus. And this way of perceiving oneself has been seeded already before, in years gone by, with the climate change narrative, which is a reproduction of religious belief systems and systems of control by religion, which is that you're a sinner and you were born a sinner, and that makes you perceive yourself as a sinner. And then you, with this self-perception, you also accept authoritarian control. So 5G and coronavirus are linked, that 5G is being rolled out in incredible speed during this lockdown and seen as essential work to be done. And there's also many more links to this aspect, and there's a reason why they don't want you to talk about this connection. In the UK, for example, you are even fined as a media organization for even making this a topic of discussion. That's the reason why it should be looked into. So why is it that we are not allowed to talk about the idea of a connection of 5G and the coronavirus? The answer is very simple when you can see through the smokes and mirrors. It's to protect the narrative. That is what is most important for the people that control the media, and it's the very reason why these special interest groups seize control of the media, because they want to push a narrative that serves their agenda. And anything that is outside of that narrative, anything that is outside of that frame that is set by those people whose narratives serve the goals that they want to implement, and everything outside of that frame is called a conspiracy theory. And that, I don't have to go deeper into that. That notion was seeded in 1967 when people started to question the JFK assassination and the report that was produced called the Warren Commission report. When people started to question the official narrative, the CIA planted the notions conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorist for anyone questioning the official narrative, and it's been used ever since. That's why it's so deeply embedded in our society. And that is for the reason because once you start questioning and you find out new information, your narrative changes, and with your narrative and your perception of the world changing, it leads to deeper questions. And you want to always protect the first domino and not let people get into this sort of information. And that's why it takes a lot of courage to go down the path of truth, because you'll be seen as a weirdo by most of the masses. So it's about protecting the narrative, as George Orwell says, and that describes the aspect of the narrative, is because he who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past. Now, what is the glue that makes the past, the present, and the future come together? It's the narrative. The view that we have of the past, and I've studied history at university, and they look to hide most of the real history, the important aspects of history. They want to hide, and they especially want to hide bigger understandings of historical background. Otherwise people start to question more. And the glue that holds it together is narrative, because, as I said, it's narrative and information contained in the narrative that changes perception. And when we change perception, our awareness is changed. And our awareness can be changed up to the point where we break free of the constraints of this control system. Because this control system's number one resource, as I said in last week's video, is our attention, is our perceptions. And that's why they want to control history, because when you control the past and the perception of the past, which then gives you a perception of your humanity and what humanity is about, it gives you a perception also about yourself. When you control the past, you control the perception of human beings, of themselves. And then you control the way human beings create reality innately by controlling their perception. So it's a very important quote, in my opinion. And where does their narrative lead? Why are we not allowed to speak about possible connections of 5G with the coronavirus? Ultimately, this agenda that's playing out day by day, and that David Icke has exposed in his 30 years of research, is the implementation of the smart grid, which is the 5G matrix. So the Matrix movies were correct. They were prophecy to understand what's really happening in this world and the things we need to look out for. First and foremost, which is a technological takeover of humanity if we don't learn the lesson that's underneath all the challenges that we're facing right now. And that's how I see this situation right now. The Matrix is not only a prison for your mind. It's not only a prison. That's only one side of the coin. It's a prison, and it is also a school. You can learn a lot from the Matrix and the control system that the Matrix is. We're not fighting the control system, but learning what it is teaching you. And that is exactly what is attempted with this video series. Because when we learn how we are being kept in the cave of narratives and shadow projections, and what all of that encompasses, and discover the principles that can get us out there, which is the most occulted knowledge that exists on the entire planet, from my research and my estimate, and heart-based intelligence. And it's not complicated information, but it's information that plants a seed in your mind and activates the heart. And the more you give attention and energy to that seed of transformation, the more it evolves and it organically grows as everything grows. Because these people are most interested in keeping this occult knowledge away from you. And one of the aspects of this occult knowledge which I want to share with you right now, which just dropped in to me, is the occult cycle of creation, the natural cycle of creation, which starts on the 21st of March of every year. That's where I celebrate New Year, and that's what also the old pagan traditions and mystery school traditions also recognized. And that was, what was it, a couple of weeks ago. So what I mean here is that this natural cycle of creation starts on the 21st of March, and it goes one full cycle until the 21st of March, 1 year later. And in this full cycle, it's not only a natural cycle of creation, but it's a cycle of manifestation. So that's why I invite you together with me to create a new world. And now, right now, we're in the time, because it's divided into 4 phases, and I'll go deeper into that in another video, but it's divided into 4 phases. And right now, up until from the 21st of March to the 21st of June, we're in the phase of fire, the element of fire. So become aware. That's why I say in these episodes to become aware of what thoughts drop in as you are listening to me, because right now the element of fire produces thoughts in your mind, of how you can create a new reality, something that empowers you, something that you really want to do. And that's what we can do together, and I invite you to do this together. And we're right in the middle of the natural cycle of creation, which is very exciting, and that's why things grow right now in nature. And that's what they are hiding, and probably hardly anyone is talking about in relation to this coronavirus. Because when my attention is fully on the virus and I'm in total fear, I'm not going to create, because I'm in fear and I'm contracted. I'm not open to all possibilities and create things that I want in life. And that's the question we need to ask ourselves, what we want. And that's really a very interesting part, that we can create a new reality. And I invite you to do that, because we don't want to end up in the 5G matrix where everything we do is controlled, and where we would be merged with machines, where artificial intelligence would be dominating our thinking, and humanity ceases to exist in the form that we know it. So that's why it's so important to speak your truth, or it will disappear, possibly. But I don't see this future scenario. I see a very positive future, but it's up to us what we make of it, Speaking our truth is absolutely important, and having the courage to speak the truth. In times of universal deceit, speaking the truth is a revolutionary act, said George Orwell. And I saw some real courage from Brian Rose by inviting David Icke to speak on his London Real episode. That was real courage, because it was said by Ofcom, the regulator in Great Britain, that you're not allowed to speak about the connection of 5G and coronavirus, And Brian Rose, because he's American, said that that's the First Amendment of the Constitution, is the freedom of speech. And I won't put up with it. So he brought on David Icke, and that's exactly what is needed in this world, is to have courage. And that was shown by people. And what is like a virus, like a virus that is apparently, I would question that also, is apparently contagious and spreading everywhere. It's the same with ideas, and it's the same with courage. That also spreads. If you show courage yourself and don't wait for the others to show courage before you, you feel proud yourself because you're doing it anyway, which shows the right motivation that you've got. And that is contagious, and people will follow you. So that's why the masses don't have to wake up, Have trust in creation, that everything is going according to plan. And we can only access the point of changing reality now. What has been, Now we can access our creative capacity, and the thing is, we can only create our way out of this situation. We can't think our way out, We can only create our way out of this situation. We are creative beings. And that's where, on the very basis, it's important to speak our truth. And to follow along with the spoken word, to act as we speak and act on what we say. And often I also find myself not producing that which I want to produce. I've had on my list for 2 weeks, no, for 1 month now, to get my website sorted. Have I done that? No, I've pushed it away, but I'm going to do it. So just to give you an example that not everything's rosy with me, but that I'm sharing this information with you, and to do this together, because that's what it's about. It's consciousness. Con meaning together, and coming from the root word sciere, which means to know, and consciousness in that sense. Our consciousness is to know together. So let's do it together, and be honest. That's what I aim to do with these videos, to be as honest as possible as I can, and get real with you, like London Real. I want to be real, because that is based in truth. Truth is the basis for freedom, and that's how we can create new outcomes. So the truth, when you speak your truth, that's important, You speak your perception, and that is it can align with truth. And the truth you don't have to protect or defend, The truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose, it will defend itself. And let's see if that is the case. Because in the interview from David Icke, from the 11 years of research that I've done, absolutely, I must say, I had the feeling truth was spoken there. And it was let loose. It's reaching millions over millions, and they're trying to censor it, but they can't censor the truth. And now's the time where it breaks through, where it shines through. And that's the reason why I call this video the Icke-onic Factor, because I see this as an incredible opportunity now for spreading that truth and really shining light on the situation we are facing right now with this totalitarian police military state being implemented for something that is not even proven. They can't show you proof that this virus is as deadly as they say. Okay, and I'm not going to go into this topic too deep in this video series right now, because I'm looking at it from a different angle. But the fact that David Icke's interview has spread to millions of people is an incredible opportunity now, because they have had the limelight now with the narrative that they push. Okay? They've had the limelight, they've pushed a narrative, this deadly virus, and we must all be locked down and house arrest and all that. And now the other side, or different narratives, different opinions, which should be the basis of any free society, and it shows you how unfree of a society we are in this system. And it's an incredible opportunity, and that's why I say, speak your truth. Don't force it onto people, in my estimate. I've tried that and lost a lot of energy through that. But just stand in your truth, It has a power of itself, It can defend for itself. Let it loose and just stand in your power, stand in your truth. Now's the time, and that will spread, and it is contagious. Exactly. That is what is contagious. Truth, the spread of truth, and courage. Courage to stand in your truth. Excuse me for that. Now, this situation that we find ourselves in, and often it is said, what's the solutions to all of this? What's the solution? And I loved what David Icke said in his interview also at the end. The last 25 minutes are just epic. It's beautiful. He said that we're drowning in solutions when you look closely. But the best solution that you can give to any situation that you ever find is to remove the cause of the problem. And then the problem cannot exist anymore. Once you remove the cause of the problem, the effect that is dependent on the cause has to vanish too. That's the cleanest way of solving anything. So that's the best solution. And we find the best solution by removing the cause of the problem. Therefore, we need to understand what the problem is. And the way I see it is that we here are engaged in a spiritual battle. The nature of the war that we find ourselves in is a spiritual war. And that's why we need to strengthen our spiritual capacities and our spiritual abilities in order to encounter that confrontation in the best sense possible. And we can do that. That light here is inside all of us. And if we make that shine, there is no one that can get close to us. I don't want to tell people what to think and to impose solutions on other people, because like David Icke said also in his interview, people choose themselves what solutions they want to implement or what's the right thing to do in the situation right now. And also, I don't impose on people what I say that people are, That's why I always say ask fundamental questions. The fundamental questions lead you to the causal level, to causes. That's why my name is also Whybrow. So therefore I'm very tuned by my name, by the resonance of my very name. I don't think that's a coincidence. It tells me something about me. And this means that I ask the question why a lot, and the question why brings you to the causal level and the basics. Always ask basic questions. And I ask these basic questions every day. Every day is a new day, every day is a new start. It's beautiful. And we're here to discover so many things. And it's to ask the question, who are we? Who are we really? And the most beautiful description I've ever found dealing with a definition of consciousness, and again, everyone can make their own minds up what they choose to, how they choose to see themselves. But the most beautiful description I've ever heard was the force that moves all things. Like the wind, it spreads. It's our consciousness, our energy, the energetic being that we are in my understanding of reality. This energy, when we shine that energy out, we change everything. And the only direction how we change things is from within, outward. Not outward and then within. No. That's why I personally do not invest my time into the QAnon narrative and wait for someone to save me. It's very well possible that that's happening, but I'm not waiting for someone to save me, because a definition of a slave is someone, for me, that is waiting to be saved. No, I believe that we came here into this realm to experience that which we see and experience in the world. We came here to experience the troubles, the fear, the doubts, the anxiety, not knowing what comes next. We can deal with all of this, and in these situations we grow most. That's why I'm doing these shows, because I grow most by confronting myself also with the darkness of this world, and just all be floaty and everything's light and just be calm. No, but have both things in balance, as was the picture last time of the yin and the yang. It's there for a reason. Darkness is there for a reason, for which we'll go into in later shows. So, I love being the force that moves all things. That means I can change everything. Why do they want you to be in fear? And most people thinking, oh, I can't change anything. Well, why would you even bother into looking into all of this stuff? Because you can't change anything anyway. That's the common way how the human being is trained to think. They want you to think that way because that's how a conqueror, an invader, wants you to think. But I would strongly suggest we are the force that moves all things. And it's the perception we have of ourselves that is most important. We will change all of this once we come to a point where we recognize that we are that cat, and that mirror shows us the lion that we are. We are powerful. I personally don't need to know what your journey's been up to now, or what your past has been. It's been the way it's been, and you can grow out of anything. You can especially make that which is most darkest of your past into the compost, the humus that will grow new seeds, that will grow new ideas. And when you give your energy in a disciplined way, not in a militant disciplinary way, but in a way of putting your awareness and your attention regularly to things you want to create, then we will create a new world. And the basis has to be right, because if the basis is not right, then nothing can be right. And the basis should be with that we start to empower ourselves and have a new perception of ourselves. Because in my experience, that changes the reality you experience. Each day by day, this light grows stronger, and we empower ourselves most when we love ourselves. And there's something I want to share with you a little bit later on. Well, I'll go into that. So, go deeper than the control system can ever do. And that's what I strongly suggest, because a lot of people also in the truth movement are still locked into finding out every little great detail of where we're heading with this control system and the vaccines and Bill Gates and Elon Musk, and proving that to people. I've stopped wanting to be right on anything. I don't need to prove to anyone that 5G is connected to the coronavirus, for example. I'll entertain the ideas and the scientific underlyings of these thoughts. Absolutely, I would do that, but I don't have to prove anything. That's how they want you to think also. That's also a trained behavior. So having to prove everything that you say, well, the mainstream media can lie all it wants. The politicians can lie all they want. But they want you to never ever put out a fake news story, otherwise you get censored. And be all militant about having to prove anything. I've also seen that in the past week in the truth movement. People blaming other people for making 5G and coronavirus connection because we only need factual information on that. They want you to think in that way also, that you need to prove everything. No, I say entertain ideas. Entertain them. You don't have to prove anything, because once you let go of wanting to be right and imposing your version of reality on other people, and you let go of that, then you are right. That's why I say entertain any information that you want and find out what's going on in the world, as I do too, but always come back to a base level perception of yourself that is empowering you, and where you are at peace and you can be flexible like water and dynamic in your understanding. That is what will propel your spiritual growth process. And that's why in this coronavirus situation and this lockdown that we find ourselves in right now, we can grow immensely spiritually and transcend this whole control system. That's why I'm doing these series. Go deeper and see that there's much more than what lies on the surface. And as I said, that's where you go into the esoteric level, where truth is contained, where you're not distracted by the exoteric, anything outside of you that you can see and view and get an understanding from, and form your opinions that then form your perception. But take what you've learned, take what you've learned in the outside, the information that you've gathered, and it's this on the base level information that changes your perception, and take it from the exoteric in to the esoteric, where you apply it in your own life. And that's where everything changed in my life. I cannot emphasize this more, to walk the path, to walk the talk. And in 2017, I took the decision to quit my studies. I was studying mathematics and history at the University of Vienna to become a teacher. And in 2017, when I found out about the 5G rollout, I knew I had to apply the understanding and the knowledge that I had gathered over the years relating to natural law and the nature of reality, and how we can change reality and not end up in the smart prison system. I knew I had to come forward with this knowledge, and I had to let go of the pre-existing idea that I had about my life and how it's going to be, and face that deepest of fears that I've always had, which is that I drop my studies, drop my university degree, and that's what changed everything. Where I let go, and it was a very painful process. And here in this picture here, you can see me in my first interview that I done in 2017, and I was hugely nervous that day. I was in the middle of a depression because I've suffered a lot from depression in my life, which again is the humus, the um, decays, the beginning of all birth, is a hermetic understanding based in reality and is a natural principle. Decays, the beginning of all birth. I had a lot of troubles with depression in my life, and that is now that I'm applying my knowledge in the real world and facing my fears of expressing my opinions, and facing the fear of being wrong on things, this is also a challenge for me, but I do it anyway. It's important for me, and it is that depression and those depressions that I had which have made me go deeper than the control system can ever go, and wake up to myself and the beauty of myself. And it's really something true that I learned from this great man David Icke, which is life gives you your greatest gifts disguised as your worst nightmare, and you can make any nightmare to a gift when you transform it. And we don't know where we're heading. I don't know. I have no clue where we're heading. I know what my intention is for this life. My intention is my primary intention is to create a Gnostic university and re-invoke the mystery school tradition in a modern sense, connected with the zeitgeist that we have at this time. I'll create that outcome, I'm sure of that, and I strongly believe that the only one that can stop me from doing that is myself, not Elon Musk and not this control system. They will be dealt with in my waking up process to myself and the power I have. I think they'll disappear and things will happen to them by me getting to know myself on a much deeper level, and coming to a level of understanding where this power is invoked, and that flame that's invoked inside of me is then transferred to other beings that ignite their flame too. By me showing courage, other people will be encouraged to do the same, and that's what will change the world. So I don't know where this is going to lead, but maybe we don't need to know. Post the idea and that seed in your mind and water it regularly in this natural cycle of creation, and it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the power we have to create reality, and we're here to experience that and just face the challenges that come up in their time. It doesn't have to be that you always get it right, and like I mentioned with my website, I'm going to do that, and I've not done it yet, but I will do it, and face the challenges when they present themselves, and then it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The Gnostic university that I wish to create will become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we're here to experience it. Life is more mystical than we think, and with all of this happening, this craziness that people like Elon Musk and Ray Kurzweil and this global elite cult wishes to connect us to the 5G matrix. we are in the twilight zone with all of this, but we can create our way out. It's our response that counts, how this moves on. We're the force that moves all things, and it's up to us what comes next, and not be distracted by the narratives, by any narrative, and finding out more and finding out more about the prison that they're creating. Except that they want to create a digital prison, and you can entertain the information, but I strongly suggest it's important to activate your reality creating talents. Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you thought was so real that you wouldn't know the difference between the real world and the dream world? I leave that up to anyone to decide what we are experiencing here. What is reality? It's the prime focus of this series. However, I'm sharing this information with you to contemplate if we are experiencing a reality that is a mirror reflection of our own state of being. And when we change our inner state of being, then we change what we experience outside of us. And I had a really profound dream yesterday, and it's just absolutely incredible. I'm putting out this intention, of really wanting to wake up to myself even more on a much deeper level, and to connect with my heart soul essence, which I know is the solution. This natural, inborn, don't have to read another book or another sentence, intelligence, an innate natural intelligence, heart-based intelligence. I know that this is the number one weapon that we've got in this spiritual war. And I had a dream yesterday that was so profound that has really changed my understanding again of things. And it was with my first girlfriend that I've ever had in my life. Her name was Florence, which means flower in French. And as one does, during the course of the spiritual path, it's I'm beyond that, I've already dealt with that. Well, we don't decide that. And I woke up like 4 o'clock in the morning after having this dream. It felt so real that it's about being loved. It comes to core questions. All of this is, am I being loved? And yes, I am being loved. That's why I also want to dedicate this episode to my first girlfriend and officially forgive her what happened there and the pain that was put onto me, because that pain is exactly the reason why I'll touch other people's hearts also, and I'll transform that pain. It becomes the gift, whereas it was the nightmare before. And it just got me on such a deep level, that experience, just today, a few hours ago. And I wanted to share that with you, because whatever we're experiencing out there, and the craziness of this world and the craziness of this experience, it is still a beautiful world that we are experiencing. And although I say this is all occult knowledge, and there is so much to know about this is not complicated knowledge. It's like most things, they're right in front of your face. And it's just about recognizing them and putting them into your life. And it's easy knowledge, but the challenging bit is putting it into your life, And that's what I wanted to share with you, that the basis for all of this is to come from a place of self-love and give yourself the love first. That's why they are principles that I'm sharing here. To give your love to yourself first. And if you can't do that right now, that's fine, but you've got the intention. That's why you've come to this video series, because this is what this video series is all about, is to grow together and to see what comes from it, create a community. Anything can come from it. The sky is not even the limit. So let's see how this continues. That's what I wanted to share with you. And dreams are powerful, and are we dreaming? Maybe. Take risks and conquer your fears. I was in such a state of panic and fear when I got into that studio doing my first interview. I'm like, what the hell do I know? I'm the perfect example of someone who's quote unquote a layperson. I'm not an expert in anything. I didn't finish my studies, I don't have official degrees and the piece of paper which says that I've got a PhD in so-and-so or a doctor in so-and-so, and now I can speak about all of this. No, I don't have that. Because I didn't come here to have that either. Because I'm finding out more and more that it's exactly that status of being a layperson. That is my greatest gift to have, because no one can take away from me anything. No one can take anything away from me. I'm relying on pure trust that I can do what I'm doing. And I've let go of wanting to control things. As I have already said, I do not know how I'm going to pay my next rent. I know I'm going to pay it. And it's, we don't have to go totally crazy on this and let everything go. You can do it bit by bit, but making the decision, that you are being carried by life, by the life force energy itself. When you let go of the mind dictating your behavior, and it's a gradual process that slowly your heart begins to imprint itself. And that's associated with a lot of fear to go back into the heart. But it's the number one path to take. It's the journey also to truth. As I said, there's only two mistakes one can make on the journey to truth. Not beginning and not going all the way. And all the way means to go into the heart. And before the heart there are these onion rings of emotions. And we get challenged big time as we're doing that, but we can do it. We can do it, and it's a beautiful process in my estimate. Everything changed for me once I didn't view this process as being depressed and being sad and all that, but actually enjoying this process, and becoming real and becoming one with nature, with our nature and with nature, because you see the power that nature has, and all that power is also inside of us. As within, so without. And here's the thing. That's why these are principles. It's the most important things to know. Change never happens through the masses. I hear this so often that I'm going to say it again, as I said in the last video. We don't have to wait for the masses to wake up. We need to wake up to a deeper level of ourselves. And then momentum is created. And other people will find that freedom is actually very important and very interesting. And truth is interesting. It will become in. So as Margaret Mead said in a beautiful way, is never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens, I would call it human beings, can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Because it goes hand in hand with organic growth. We can grow like a seed turns into a plant. That's where we can learn from nature. And we start small. We don't know how many people are already consciously co-creating a new world, a new paradigm. That's what this video series is dedicated to invite you to co-create a new paradigm and a new world together with me. There'll be no shortage of work in transforming this world. We just need to activate ourselves and make that intention today if we haven't already made it before. And we're changing the paradigm and changing reality from the quote unquote lowest point, the base of the pyramid, and not wait for, like is in the QAnon narrative, independent of if it's true or not, if that happens, but to not wait until the cabal is arrested and things change on the highest point of this pyramid, which I don't think it will. Any change will only come organically, attuned to the natural processes, and that comes from the lowest point of the pyramid, the lowest sort of strata of the pyramid, and we are a lot, and I'm here to make myself realize, and remember myself by doing these videos that I'm doing what I'm saying I want to do. I give a reminder to myself through these videos, and I invite you to do the same, and make to really shine the light on the principles of how we can really make a difference and not stay stuck in the rabbit hole. And we can continue to research the rabbit hole and how deep it goes, of course. But when we don't have our perceptions tuned to these principles from which this reality is governed by, then we're not going to get anywhere. And it is time we took our planet back. It is our planet, according to lots of philosophies, especially the philosophy that I looked into deeply, which is the Gnostic philosophy, and the Sophianic vision, with Gaia, as she's called, the great mother planet, the great mother, who I love, and I'm a warrior of her, as the quote from Nietzsche goes. Untroubled, scornful, outrageous. That's how wisdom wants us to be. She is a woman, and she never loved anyone but a warrior. That's what is necessary. We need to have that intentionality. Really go for it. Because in the Sophianic vision, that is the narrative of the Gnostics, the alternative narrative that the Gnostics had, which I'll look deeper into in coming episodes, which is that there is an open narrative. It's not his story, but it's her story. Story of the mother planet as the Gnostics described. Independent if that's really true. However, we'll probably be able to find out if it's true. But it's a beautiful story, and it was a guiding narrative of the mysteries, of the mystery school traditions that was all across Europe and probably also the world. And that was that this transformation, which is happening on the world right now, is an open narrative. The author of the book Not in His Image, John Lamb Lash, the Gnostic scholar, who was the first to reproduce the Sophianic vision and her story, the Sophianic narrative of the mother planet. In that view, she can only make that transformation if she's got humans doing it together with her, and it's an open narrative. The Sophianic vision was, in 50 years of being a comparative mythologist, John Lash said that the only narrative that he found which had an open ending was the Sophianic narrative, the narrative of our mother planet, of our home planet, the genius and beautiful paradise that it is. It is only a prison planet in a prison perception. It can become a paradise for an expanded sense of perception, an expanded sense of awareness, when we can see that light, in that light. And it is dependent on our willpower. And that's what we'll look into in the next episode. Willpower and the importance of our willpower in all of this. Are we pawns on a chessboard being moved around by our environment, not having the rules to the game, looking like fools, and being afraid of psychopaths? Or is our willpower stronger than that of the environment, of anyone? Is it stronger to be free, to have a world that is a paradise, and that we actually made it the paradise that it then is in the coming future? When we did that, and that it was 5G or vaccines or the coronavirus or any subject, 9/11, that all these events that looked as if the elite were going to take us over, that they were actually only there to wake us up from our slumber and activate our heart-based intelligence and activate our willpower, which will change the dynamics on the playing field of the chessboard and create the paradise on earth, heaven on earth. How proud would we be to look back and say, as in my case, oh, it was 5G that made me really go for that which I really want from this life, which is to teach natural law to people and heart-based intelligence, how to integrate your emotions, which is your natural power inside of you. And I did that for free to all my brothers and sisters that I invite along this journey of creating that paradise. I did that for free because the work that I see myself as doing is priceless. I'm working on the value that I have on myself right now. That's the challenge that I'm working on myself right now, is how much value do I give myself? That's why I had the dream yesterday with my ex-girlfriend, my first girlfriend, and realizing that I wanted to be loved. It's that simply and can I be loved? And yes, we are all full of love. And I give myself that love and that value now. And still we are in a situation where we live through the energy package called money. And that's a challenge I put myself in right now, not only in setting up the website in a proper way, but also giving myself value. And if you've found this information helpful that you've heard here, then I would be really happy if you become a Patreon supporter on my Patreon page, or you go onto the donation section of my website and help me out with whatever you think is something that you can share with me so I can move this operation further. Anyways, I'm very happy to have you here, and I'm gonna be just fine. I'll be taking care of creation because I've just faced that challenge of giving myself value. I have value. I'm strengthening that just by saying it right here on camera. And you can choose to see that you also have value 100%, and we're doing this together. And I'm looking forward to continuing this ride together with you. And till next time, all the best. Take care.